Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
San Diego energy bills might be more expensive in the years ahead. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Before that happens, SDG&E customers are having their say on a plan to raise prices. And KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer is live at the Sherman Heights Community Center, where the in-person public forums are being held. Jacob.
Hi, Maya. SDG&E is asking regulators to approve about $3.6 billion in additional revenue between 2024 and 2027. And what that means is that's about $9 to $18 extra in bills per month next year alone, and that number goes even higher next year. Earlier today, we spoke with some individuals here at the Sherman Heights Community Center, and there was over 100 people who voiced their opposition. The public forums come after January's record high natural gas prices, which caused SDG&E customers to face some of the highest energy bills in the country. Earlier today, we spoke with Rita Clement, who was upset about the financial and potential environmental impacts of the rate hikes.
We should be able to have the right to warm our homes, warm our water. We feel that's an essential right to have. And with these increasing rates, how are people going to be able to continue to do that?
SDG&E says the revenue request allows the utility to prepare for a future that is transitioning to a grid that produces less carbon. Company filings say that includes building energy storage projects, electrical vehicle infrastructure, and making the transition to a carbon-neutral future. And earlier in the month, there were virtual hearings held on the matter, but today was the first in-person meeting around 2 p.m. There's another one set for 6 p.m. later this evening, and there's supposed to be a decision on the matter in mid-2024.
And Jacob, in the event that increases are actually approved, when would customers expect to see them on their bills?
So it's probable that customers would actually see it retroactively dated to January 1st, 2024. Reporting live from Sherman Heights, Jacob Ayer. Back to you, Maya.
And thanks for that report. Another step toward resolving the city of San Diego's botched real estate deal for a major downtown office building. The real estate broker involved in the 101 Ash Street controversy pleaded guilty to a conflict of interest charge. Jason Hughes facilitated lease-to-own deal for the Ash Street building in 2017 and made nearly $10 million. It was later revealed asbestos contamination made the building unusable. Hughes has agreed to pay back his earnings. He'll also serve a year of probation and pay a $400 fine. Interest rates went up yet again, leaving people wondering what that means for the economy and their finances. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado spoke with experts who say while you can't control the Fed, there are some things you can do.
The R word, recession, has been thrown around a lot lately, even before the two bank failures and interest rate hike. Economist Alan Ginn says there's a 60% chance of a recession.
I think people should be cautious at this point. There's still a stronger possibility than of a recession than not. So I think then people should try then to get their financial house in order if possible.
Ginn says it will be harder and more expensive to borrow money.
So mortgage rates are going to be going up, car loans are going to be going up, credit card rates are going to be going up.
The Census Bureau says almost 40% of Americans use credit cards to pay for necessities.
Consumers will feel that pinch.
Matt Fico, the CFO of California Coast Credit Union, the longest-serving credit union in the county, says that's exactly what they're seeing.
We're seeing a drain on savings and a drain on checking accounts and an increase on credit card balances. So that tells us consumers are using the funds that they had saved up for daily expenses, and now they're actually tapping into their credit card balances.
Fico says that's a dangerous place to be in when credit is tightening and rates go up. He says now is the time to talk about finances as a family, be honest about debt, but have the talk even if you're not in debt, like he did with his family.
We made a list of all of our expenses for the month, and we classified them as necessity and discretionary. So we already know which expenses we can cut that, if that time comes.
And come up with a plan to pay it off.
Tighten the belt a little bit. Do we really need to go out to dinner on Friday night, or do we really need to spend some extra stuff, for the household? If we don't do it. Focus on doubling up your payment on your credit card bill.
But he says you don't have to go it alone. And while it will hurt in the short term, being debt-free and having a savings cushion will alleviate stress and prevent financial catastrophe.
We'll find the best solution for you to help you get through this situation and avoid getting into those areas where you're having to turn over the keys to your car, or God forbid, turn over the keys to your house.
He says you should avoid pulling money out of your retirement because you will pay a late fee and it might not be worth it. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
San Diego Restaurant Week is back for its 20th year. That starts this Sunday. KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us how dining out during this year's event will help those experiencing hunger.
Over 200 restaurants are participating in this year's San Diego Restaurant Week.
San Diego Restaurant Week not only celebrates the culinary community, the amazing culinary community we have in San Diego, but this year it's an opportunity for meals to give back.
Chef Works has participated with Feeding San Diego. For every meal, for every seat, $2 per meal will be donated to Feeding San Diego while you're dining and enjoying this spring at your favorite local restaurants or restaurants that you've never been to.
Chef Works, a Poway-based company, will donate up to $10,000 to Feeding San Diego to help their year-round hunger relief and food rescue programs.
Obviously, we want to support anything in our backyard that has to do with restaurants and food and culinary, and Feeding San Diego was a natural partnership for us to get to be involved in. And
we really encourage the community to make the reservations to help trigger this generous donation.
Dana Williams is with Feeding San Diego and says that $10,000 translates to about 20,000 meals for people facing hunger in San Diego County.
This really comes at a critical time because we're seeing an increase in demand for our services ever since the pandemic. And now with skyrocketing inflation and pandemic-era EBT support expiring, people are more in need today than ever before.
San Diego City Council member Marnie Von Wilpert shows her support for Restaurant Week and its donation to Feeding San Diego.
We realized we always have to take care of our neighbors in need. There are hundreds of families every day in San Diego who are in need of food, may not know what they're going to have for dinner, and so that's why this partnership is so important.
San Diego Restaurant Week runs from March 26th through April 2nd. Melissa May, KPBS News.
TikTok reports the social media app now has 150 million users in the United States. Despite the popularity, some lawmakers are still pushing for an outright ban over claims that user data might be misused by the Chinese government. Mike Valerio tells us what TikTok's CEO had to say on Capitol Hill.
There are more than 150 million Americans who love our platform.
TikTok CEO facing U.S. lawmakers for the first time on Capitol Hill in a heated hearing.
We do not trust TikTok will ever embrace American values. TikTok has repeatedly chosen the path for more control, more surveillance, and more manipulation. Your platform should be banned.
U.S. lawmakers repeating calls for the ban of the video app based on national security concerns about the app's ability to collect data from its users. But TikTok CEO maintains the app doesn't collect any more data than other social media companies.
We will firewall protected U.S. data from unwanted foreign access.
CEO Shou Chu fighting back, attempting to reassure Congress his company has taken action to resolve fears the Chinese government could gain access to TikTok user data.
The bottom line is this: American data stored on American soil by an American company, overseen by American personnel.
But in the eyes of some experts, an all-out TikTok ban is unlikely.
This app has millions of users, right? So free speech and all of these other considerations come into play. And that's why I think we're far less likely to get a full ban and more likely to see some kind of potentially middle ground restriction.
In Los Angeles, Mike Valerio, KPBS News.
The U.S. Border Patrol is sharing photos of what it says are a group of Haitian migrants being rescued from the Tijuana River. This happened on Wednesday near the San Ysidro port of entry. The Border Patrol says the group of 6 adults was crossing into the U.S. illegally. They were checked by medical staff before being taken to a nearby station. Today marks 13 years since a major expansion of health care access in the United States. Former President Barack Obama signed the Affordable Care Act into law on March 23, 2010. President Joe Biden who was vice president at the time, offered some comments today at the White House. The ACA paved the way for individual state exchanges like Covered California. And earlier this month, the exchange reported its membership has grown to 1.7 million members. Death is not an easy thing to face, but a crematorium in Escondido is helping families through the process until the very end. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne shows us the space designed for families to witness the cremation process.
During the height of the pandemic, Tatiana Maca was an ICU nurse.
And I noticed there was a lot of deaths during COVID, and a lot of families couldn't deal with it and didn't have that closure. So I wanted to provide a space for them to have that time, have that moment with their loved one.
Maca left the medical field and began dedicating her life to something completely different.
The reason we started as a crematory and funeral home is because we wanted to provide a service that is not there, more specifically witness cremations.
She says it took about 1.5 years to get silver lining cremations up and running.
There's a lot of licenses that are involved that we had to take from the state, from the city, and from the county.
Maca says witness cremations aren't a new thing.
The other funeral homes or other crematories in the area have that option, but their setup is very industrial, and the family gets 5 minutes. And they're around, they don't have a quiet space. They don't have a place to say goodbye. It's a very quick, here we go, the body's getting cremated, and that's it.
But the space at Silver Lining Crematorium was designed with witness cremations in mind. Space in front of the retort or cremation chamber allows for families to be a part of the cremation process in their own ways.
We've had Buddhist monks, we've had Hindu priests, we've had Catholic priests in here doing rosaries. I've had Jewish families come and do cremations. Any religion that you can think of, we've had it. And anywhere from 10 people to 60.
For different cultures, being a part of the cremation process and witnessing it is a tradition. One that Maca says would go unfulfilled without spaces like the one they offer.
A lot of the families that we've had are immigrants. So because they can't take them home, it's important for them to give them the right way, right? The right goodbye.
But Maca says that many people still view cremations as scary, and the thought of witnessing the process is something they don't consider right away.
And I'll tell you, there's no flames coming out. Nobody's getting engulfed in flames. There's no smoke. There's nothing that's terrifying about the process. It's actually very calm. We play music. We have them be in the room. They see us load the decedent into the retort. It's nice to be part of it, the same way as when they go to a cemetery. They're part of the burial.
She says more people are choosing cremations over burials due to the cost and environmental consciousness.
Embalming is formaldehyde and many other chemicals that end up at the end of the day in the ground. With burials, the body goes into the ground and it stays there, right, in a casket until the time comes and it gets disintegrated. With cremations, the embalming is not required by the state of California. So it's a greener, faster, more affordable solution for the family.
Maca says her experience with death in hospitals is what really motivated her to open a different kind of space.
Back in the days, people used to die at home, and families cared for them, and the family doesn't have that opportunity anymore. So with witnessing, it gives them that chance. I've had families that came in and brushed the hair of their loved one or applied lipstick for the last time.
Maca says it's those small details that help many families move on, and she's proud to offer that.
Death will happen, right? It's part of life. But if we can find that sliver of peace and calm, and if we can offer that space to the families and help them have closure, then I think that's worth everything that we do. It's why we're here.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
And that story by Tanya Thorne is an example of our in-depth feature reporting. You can find more at the KPBS YouTube page, and that's also where we live stream KPBS Evening Edition weeknights at 5. San Francisco has the reputation of being a haven for progressives in the United States, and a big reason for that is the Bay Area's diversity. But there is some nuance forming. Kyung La reports on how quality of life and public safety issues are swaying a key group of voters.
I'm trying to understand the needs of the Asian community here. Hey, how you doing?
Forrest Liu, once a San Francisco finance worker,
And I'm a Stop Asian Hate activist.
now a Bay Area community organizer.
Do you live around this neighborhood?
Tracking the voting power of Asian Americans. Discontent in the Sunset District majority Asian community is driving a series of political shakeups in San Francisco, one of America's most liberal cities.
We're like a canary in a coal mine, right? When things get really bad, we're going to come out and be like, these are like basic human rights that are being violated.
San Francisco is deteriorating right now.
It began in the pandemic with the spike in violent hate crimes targeting Asian Americans.
The right to feel safe when you walk on the street, the right to have access to decent public education, and the right to be seen and heard. And yeah, I think we woke up.
And voted into City Hall a moderate Democrat.
I'm bringing it more to a moderate shade of blue, a common sense shade of blue.
Joel Engardio, elected in November, beat the Chinese-American incumbent, becoming the first non-Asian in 2 decades to represent this majority Asian district.
Ni hao, wu jiao, in jia li.
Voters overlooked race and supported Engardio's campaign on public safety, merit-based public schools, and cutting red tape for small businesses. Engardio also backed the recall of San Francisco's progressive district attorney last year, overwhelmingly supported by Asian American voters in the district.
Is it a backlash of progressivism in our cities? Is that how you see it?
To me, progressive is forward thinking, moving into the future, and building a better city. And for too long, we have not followed that definition of progressive.
One of the Chinese mothers who campaigned and ushered in Engardio's upset is Aline Zhu.
I'll just pick this name because it's Asian. That's how I used to vote. That is not a good way to vote. Something turned on during the pandemic and sort of lit a fire.
Go to the school board, thank you.
It began with her anger at the public schools. She says the school board put progressive politics over classroom needs during the pandemic. Zhu is one of the Asian parents who drove the successful recall of 3 school board members.
What happened to the Democrats in the city, in your opinion?
I think they have gone too extreme to the left. I think we need to get back to the basics and focus on making sure the cities are safe, making sure we have high quality education. I know of folks that have traditionally voted Democrat that are now voting Republican because they do not feel that the Democratic Party is representing them.
That is a warning sign for Democrat and civil rights attorney Charles Jung and for National Democrats in 2024.
You saw a substantial double-digit erosion of support from Asian Americans from this midterm election to 2018. And incidentally, it's not just Asian Americans. You saw the same thing among Hispanic voters.
Is your race a warning signal to National Democrats?
San Francisco, the most liberal place in America, is saying, enough, we want safe streets, we want good schools. So that should tell anyone, pay attention.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, members of Congress grill the head of TikTok amid growing calls to ban the video app. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A lot of people moved to Southern California to avoid things like tornadoes. But this first week of spring has delivered some surprises. Isabel Rosales wraps up some of the stormy weather we've seen lately.
A pair of rare tornadoes tearing through the Golden State.
You just don't think Southern California having this storm like this.
One dangerous twister, packing winds estimated up to 110 miles per hour, according to the National Weather Service. The powerful tornado, collapsing roofs, uprooting trees, damaging cars, and sending debris flying into the air.
We thought it was an earthquake. They started screaming earthquake, and then the power just went out.
At least one person was injured.
Typically, with the tornadoes that affect this area, they spin up very rapidly. Unfortunately, sometimes too rapidly to detect or warn for.
Weather whiplash. Californians have been welcoming the much-needed heavy rain and snow to combat drought conditions. But now the storms just keep coming. The severe weather threat, not yet over, as the same weather system rolls east, with more than 40 million people in its path. By Friday, the dangerous weather peaks in the south, with heavy rain and flash flooding expected. Tennessee, Louisiana, and Mississippi facing a level 4 out of 5 for potentially strong tornadoes. Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
Taking a look at your weather headlines as we wrap up the week, we are talking about widely scattered light showers, gusty wind for the mountains and the deserts, dry but cool weather into the weekend. Looking back at the last several hours, here's those scattered light showers that we've been dealing with, and we could continue to see those into tonight into San Diego, where we'll drop down to about 54. Snow showers in Mount Laguna down to 29, Borrego Springs 47, Oceanside drops to 46, and Chula Vista you'll drop to 50. Taking a peek into tomorrow, Oceanside 63, San Diego gets up to 64, Borrego Springs, our warm spot at 72. Meanwhile, 30-degree difference there, Mount Laguna at 42 degrees. On Saturday, we'll talk about wet weather and some wintry weather in the northern parts of the state there with some showers and some snow, but it's the chill that we'll still be hanging on to and breezy conditions at time on our Saturday. And it does look like the chill could stick around for a little bit. We'll see that big dip in the jet stream here where temperatures could be running anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees below our historical averages. And hey, we won't see a whole lot of sunshine over the next couple of days. We'll take a look though at our 5-day outlook along the coast. 63 for Friday. We'll be into the low 60s again on Saturday, and then Sunday it'll be cool with some sun at about 61. Heading into Monday, we'll see uptick in temps a little bit at 67, but then back to the low 60s on Tuesday. Your 5-day outlook inland, 63 with some sunshine on Friday, and then staying cool as we head into the weekend, mid-60s. A brief 71 on Monday before dropping back to the upper 60s as we head into our Tuesday. 5-day outlook for the mountains. Temperatures will be into the 40s, and it's going to be windy through our Friday. Cold with sunshine on Saturday. Low 40s is all we get to Sunday and Monday, and then back to the mid-40s on our Tuesday. And looking into the deserts, where we'll see those low 70s as we head into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then temperatures increase a little bit by next week. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Ariella Scalise.
March Madness resumes tomorrow for SDSU. The Aztec men's basketball team takes on Alabama in Louisville, Kentucky. Viejas Arena will host a free watch party tomorrow. Doors open at 2:30 with the game starting at 3:30, and the winner will advance to the Elite Eight this weekend. And anyone who has tried to put together a Lego set knows just how much time and effort goes into something like this. This is a San Diego mini land assembled by Legoland California in Carlsbad, and it includes all kinds of local landmarks and destinations like the Convention Center during Comic-Con week, the Gaslamp Quarter, of course, Hotel Del Coronado, and the San Diego County Fair. And we got a teaser a couple of weeks ago with the Petco Park reveal. Legoland says it took 5 million Lego bricks to complete this project, and it's part of the new Miniland exhibit debuting today. Other cities include Las Vegas and New York have also gotten the Legoland treatment. The USS Theodore Roosevelt is back in its home port of San Diego. KPBS reporter John Carroll was at NAS North Island today at the massive aircraft carrier pulled into port.
It's not often one gets to use the word majestic in a story, but it certainly fits for this one. That's for the Roosevelt. But this is also a very human story, as in family members who haven't seen their loved ones in quite a while.
We're so excited. We're trying to keep, I'm trying to keep emotions in check.
Jan Workman and her husband Mark drove down from Mountain View in the Bay Area. Their daughter Molly is a communications officer on board the Roosevelt. Jan saw Molly in December, but it's been a year for her dad. Fortunately, both of them are veterans, so they know how military life can be.
I understand what she's going through. It's different being on this side of it, though.
The excitement was already in the air here as families waited for the big moment. But things really got electric as the massive ship rounded the corner and finally made her way to the dock. For the last year and a half, the Roosevelt has been up at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Bremerton, Washington. There, the 39-year-old carrier underwent maintenance to modernize the ship's combat efficiency and, as the Navy says, to ensure sustained operational readiness. Back at the dock, the anticipation was building. The next moment for the workmen came about 30 minutes later when the ship pulled into port and they saw their daughter.
Oh, it was so exciting. It was so exciting.
We've been looking for her, and she texted us, and she was like, she's here, and we couldn't find her, but finally saw her.
All that was left was for the walkway to be hoisted into place and the crew to make their way down to dry land. Unfortunately, things got delayed. We had hoped to hear from the commanding officer of the Roosevelt right here at this lectern, but the military doesn't work on our time, and he's not here yet, and in order for this story to make air, we have to leave. But the important thing is that the Roosevelt is back at home. Its crew safe and sound, the ship in tip-top shape, ready for her next deployment. At NAS North Island, John Carroll, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.